MacVoices is sponsored by Upstart, fair and fast personal loans. Go to upstart.com/MacVoices and find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night. It's 8 p.m., so it must be MacVoices Live, because what else could it be? 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. You can find us doing this on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We encourage you to join our chat room, to throw comments, questions, money, whatever you want to throw at us in the chat room, we will respond. Tonight, we're going to take on, we have 3 topics slated. We'll see if we get to all of them. And as one of our panelists said, try not to turn this into a mini-series again. But before we get to the topics, let's go around and find out who's here, because we have a full house tonight. So first up, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, welcome. Good to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me as always. Always looking forward to a great topic here. And these are some good ones tonight.
Definitely. Mr. Jeff Gamet is here, of course, as always. Jeff, welcome.
Underpants.
Yes. Well played. It's great to be here. And I can tell that I'm loved just as you are.
Yep, there you go. Frank Petrie is here. Good evening, Mr. Petrie.
Uh-oh.
That's your cue.
He lost his ears.
Underpants?
He lost his ears.
Oh no.
Okay, we'll come
back to Frank.
We'll come back to Frank.
He can't hear us.
Yes. Okay, now's the chance to get all those comments in. Guy Serle is here, sporting a blazing orange shirt. Guy?
Yeah, it is so very orange, much like the color of my soul. Okay. Sorry,
you can
I
take
had
an
nothing else
ointment for that, you know.
Well, they say that, but it's not covered by Medicare. So
some prisons use that as a color, don't they?
What?
This is.
I know what a black, a black soul is, or a dark soul. I never heard of an orange soul. I have no idea.
It's Halloween themed, and it's only May.
Awesome.
Okay. Frank, are you back? Frank is apparently not back, so we'll go to Mark Fuccio. Mark, welcome. Good to have you.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here.
Jay
I've got a
Miller's
hard
here.
out at the top of the hour because it's sunny and spring here in California, and we've all had our vaccinations, and a bunch of our friends have too. So, got to leave at top of the hour, plus or minus, because we're going to have a barbecue. So,
oh, good. Sounds good.
Sounds great.
And they didn't invite us. Oh well. Jay Miller is here, hiding behind that big microphone of his. Jay, how are you?
I'm hiding today. I'm also fully vaccinated, but don't tell my friends.
Want to see? I'm not allowed to because it's a HIPAA violation. So you guys are volunteering. I'm not asking.
No, we can totally tell it. We're not doctors. As a matter of fact, I can go out on Twitter right now and tell everyone Jay's vaccinated.
Please don't. I have family.
It's trending.
They want
Jay vaccination
to see us so badly, and I don't want to go.
which one did he get, Jay? Pfizer or Moderna or J&J?
The fighting Pfizers, as we call them.
Nice. We're in the same club.
Okay.
Moderna.
Well,
Go Big P.
If Tony Fauci means anything, it's pronounced Pfizer. You got to get that Brooklyn, New York accent. Pfizer.
Andrew Orr is here, and I'm not asking if you're vaccinated, Andrew. The only question is, what are you drinking tonight?
Tonight I am drinking some vodka and lemon juice, or lemonade. Sorry.
Okay, fucking lemon juice.
It probably shouldn't ask the
Lemon
ratio.
juice. A little edge on that.
Okay, so Andrew is taking a different approach to disinfecting. So good job, Andrew.
But I just from this past Sunday, I just got my second dose, and it feels really cool, but also really weird because I just saw in the news that the CDC says fully vaccinated people don't have to wear masks anymore, and I've only done it a couple times, but it just feels really strange.
I've just resigned to the fact that I'm just going to keep wearing one. And when people ask, I'm going to tell them it's because I'm making funny faces at them and they can't see it.
Just put like one of those big red clown noses on the inside of it.
Yeah. This is going well.
Yeah, this is going real well. Jim Ray is here to wrap up the introductions. Jim, welcome. Great to have you.
I'm fully vaccinated, but I have no friends. So,
oh, we'll be your friends.
Yeah, you've got all of us on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, but only on Tuesday. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the rest of the time you have friends in Slack. How's that? So you're never alone. You're never alone
in a Slack room.
And Frank disappeared, so I'm assuming that he's. I hope he's coming back, but if not, he may have. As we speak, he may be destroying his computer. Oh no, there he is. Let's see if we get him back.
Doesn't Frank have one of those fancy new iMacs?
No, he has an old
one. Not yet.
No, didn't he get one of the new iMacs?
No.
Frank, are you here?
I thought he did. He was talking about it on the channel.
Yeah, here I am. No. What I was saying with the iMac is I was screwing around because I had written an article how everybody was backpedaling. Like on YouTube, everyone was like, "Oh, this looks like crap." And then 4 days later, they were going, "Oh, this is great." They were going retro. So what I did is I changed the color on the iMac and I made a beige one.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was very clever, Frank.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm done for the year.
I can show my age and say that my first Apple computing device was one of the black MacBooks, and I thought I was the coolest kid on the streets with that black.
I wish they would bring that back. The PowerBook. Oh,
yeah,
that thing was dynamite looking.
Yeah, you were the coolest kid on your street.
Yeah, and then he moved on and got the big money.
And he showed up here.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, and I do mean gentlemen. We don't have any ladies among us tonight, so I'm not sure what. Yeah, that's yes.
That says something about us.
I'm not sure. I hope not. So I had 3 topics on the agenda. The one I feel like is kind of the obvious one, and that is the lossless spatial audio, Dolby Atmos audio announcements from Apple, and then the sort of piggyback announcement by Amazon and the allegedly impending announcement by Spotify that everybody is now suddenly going to give you lossless audio. I think this is really, first of all, I think it's a long time coming. Tidal's been out there doing it, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens to Tidal as this happens, because not only were they the only one delivering it, they were also charging a premium price. So that's going to have to be adjusted somewhere, or I think people will vacate. I don't think they're just going to throw money at it.
Well, how many people do Tidal even have? I don't think that their numbers are that high.
No, they're not.
I don't know how big. I mean, but it was considered, I think, an audiophile service. That was its biggest attraction.
But
they're
does
now
anybody
a Square
use
company, so they will find ways to add value into it. Just the fact that now Dorsey's running it, I'm not worried about Tidal. It'll fade away and become an ancillary product and something else. It'll be tied into Twitter somehow.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't Neil Young involved with them, or am I thinking of
that was his own thing. Yeah, he had his own snake oil thing going on.
That's the Pono player, right?
It's all right. A Southern man doesn't need him around anyhow.
Yeah. Jeff, what I think you said it. Was it Pono?
Pono
player.
Pono.
Yeah.
The Pono player, yeah. I think it's still around.
So I guess the question I want to ask, and obviously the other part of this story is that there's a lot of smoke and fire around the fact that not every Apple device will be able to take full advantage of these options. And looking at it, I think from what I've been able to read and what I've been able to ascertain, it's not a failure or a refusal by Apple to do it. It's just a simple fact of the matter that we're talking about wireless audio here and through Bluetooth, and Bluetooth doesn't support it. And so this stuff is not magic. It just doesn't support it.
Yeah, this is just physics.
Well, also you have to have like the correct separation for spatial audio to work as well. I mean, you can't just say, okay, well, here's your HomePod Mini, and here's spatial audio as this sits 6 feet in front of you. It's going to sound like it's behind you, but it's not.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So it's best. It's going to work best with AirPods or with the AirPod Pros, or some kind of over the ear kind of speakers, because otherwise the math just doesn't work.
You're saying spatial
work
audio.
is people don't mention the fact, like I myself, like when I go driving, all my music, LTE. The problem is if you do it wirelessly, you're going to chew through your data cap like you wouldn't believe. Like particularly if you're using tier 3, you're going to wipe out your data cap within hours. If it's like unless you have an unlimited data cap.
And you won't hear any improvement in the audio quality because you don't have a DAC that actually supports that.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, well, that was my question when I first heard this announcement. So there are two really cool things that I thought. So first, Apple is enabling this for every song. They're enabling lossless audio for its entire catalog. You don't have to have like a special hi-fi Apple Music tier like some rumors mention. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, that other part was the spatial audio. And so far, I think there's like the AirPods Pro, maybe some Beats headphones that can enable that. So I just feel like there are two different things going on.
Oh, very much so. As far as the loss, I mean, we've had lossless music available to us before. I mean, hell, there was Apple lossless going back for years. Yeah. And it was, and again, are any of these going to be the magic bullet that's going to make music sound so much better than it ever has before? No. If you want like the true music experience, you set up 4 or 5 speakers around you and you get a high dollar receiver that has a good DAC in it. And then you play Dark Side of the Moon until your brains leak out of your ears. But the rest of it, it's just, you can't get blood from a stone. And for most people that are listening to music through AirPods, or they're listening to music on their car stereos, the fact that the file is lossless means nothing. It's because it's not going to sound any better than when it was an MP3 or a WAV file.
The thing is, what I end up doing is I buy albums, but only specific albums that I want through like services like HD Tracks, where you can download the uncompressed file and I can play straight through the computer and the speakers.
In my opinion, this is platform positioning. It is, there are, as more and more people become Apple users, as more and more people become engrossed in the Apple ecosystem, we're going to see all of these media streaming companies start to show where they differ. And that's where a handful of people that they don't already have in their pockets are going to want to go in another direction. There are people that will say, I'm an audiophile. I'm not an audiophile personally. I mean, headphones are all for show. I really got like hearing aids in here. I'm kidding. That's a joke. But there are going to be people that'll say, I want to use Tidal because it has the best audio. Well, Apple just said, well, now we have also the best audio. So there's that. Amazon's going to then say, well, wait, me too, me too, me too. I have said this so many times now that I'm starting to believe it. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't trade on any regular basis, but I want to see how this comes into play when people start looking at the other services outside of just playing music. And the big example here is Peloton's stock price is now in the crapper. Apple's not going to buy Peloton, but Amazon will, but Spotify might. And now you have a competitive advantage to say, hey, if you don't care about Apple News or Apple Arcade and you want your music synced with your exercising experience and you want one of the top of the line exercise equipments with the highest of definition sounding audio, you need to go this route. This is each of these companies saying, we need to make sure that no other company can say, well, I would go with Apple Music, but they don't have the high definition music, and I'm an audiophile. Twist my mustache in a curly fancy way.
Yeah,
Snidely,
it's
snidely
meaningless,
whiplash.
though. You know, most people can't. You could play a WAV file next to an MP3 file next to an Apple lossless file to whatever this is through the same set of speakers, and nine people out of 10 wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
But they'll pay the difference
themselves.
even if they can't tell. They will say, I can tell, not me, I've got the amazing ears. I will pay the extra $5 because the quality is better, when honestly you gave them the exact same file.
But okay, so we can argue about that point all day, and I think we have in the past about the lossless and can people really hear a difference? There's no question that depending on the settings and depending on your speakers and your ears, that you can hear a difference in some things if they're really compressed or really not compressed. But Jay, I hear what you're saying, but I guess I'm a little confused because since everybody now seems to be coming to the lossless bandwagon, because that includes Amazon and Spotify and now Apple, how does that?
It's one less thing. Now Apple, you can't say like, I'm not going to go with Apple Music because they don't have high def music. You're going to say, well, everybody's now on the same playing field again. And then someone will come out with 8K music where, you can taste it. And all of a sudden, then someone's going to go, well, I don't want Apple Music because I can't taste it. And then eventually people start chasing that tail, and we'll just keep going through this pattern of competing over, well, why should I choose service A over service B, even though at the end of the day, they're all the same.
And a lot of it also depends on the equipment that you already have. Yeah. You talked about Peloton. Most people couldn't afford to go out and get a $2,500 treadmill or some of the other high dollar gear that Peloton was selling, and then throw on top of that the monthly subscription service. And that's not to say that for some people it's not worth it. I'm sure that they love their equipment. I know a woman who has one of the Peloton bicycles, and she loves the hell out of it. But to me, it's like you just get a stationary bicycle and you look at a YouTube video of somebody going up a mountain. And, do you have that person in your ear that is like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. It's like, if you need that, then what's your life like? I mean, exercise because it's good for you. And
but the same people who spend thousands of dollars on Peloton treadmills and bicycles are the same people that will buy high definition audio services, even though they lack the equipment to take advantage of it. Yeah. And those are also the same people that Apple wants subscribing to the Apple One Premier program, the same people that Spotify wants subscribing to the Spotify whatever it is, and the same people that already have Amazon Prime but just never use the music service.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
But to be fair about it, the Amazon Music service is a separate subscription beyond Amazon Prime. Right. I mean, you have a basic version, but if you want the real Amazon Music service that includes this new lossless, you're still going to pay something. I'm not sure exactly what, but something comparable to what you would pay for Apple Music. So, right. just to be clear that that there is a difference. MacVoices is supported by Upstart. Fair and fast personal loans. Go to upstart.com/MacVoices and find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan, all online. They take an AI approach to lending to improve your access to affordable credit. Unlike traditional lenders that use simple FICO-based models, The Upstart model approves 27% more applicants than the traditional model and yields 16% lower average APRs for approved loans. That means that you have a better chance of getting a loan and at a lower rate to boot. Stop dreading those credit card statements each month. Stop paying those high rates to the credit card companies. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/MacVoices. That's upstart.com/MacVoices. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Upstart for their support of MacVoices. David, does this make any difference to you as far as having this option?
Well, I have been thinking about it. I pretty much have been using Bluetooth headsets for the most part. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm myself being an audiophile, but I do enjoy music, and I have quite an extensive collection over the years of my MP3s and ripping CDs and such. But it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna try it out. I've got pairs of headphones where I can I get my Bose QC35s and just plug them in wired and be able to experience it. But it's a shame, I'm kind of glad I don't own a pair of AirPod Maxes, because even though that does have a wire, you're still not going to get. It doesn't have the technology to allow it to play the sound. So that's kind of a bummer. But overall, I think it's going to be.
About that. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Continue, and then I'll ask my question. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. But overall, I've always had MP3s as my files of choice, but the Lossless does. You do notice a little bit of a difference. But like I just compared a little bit ago there, put a WAV file next to an MP3, next to an AAC, to a Lossless, or any of those other files. I mean, you really got to have some pretty good ears to even really notice a huge difference. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so my question, it's about AirPods Max, and I haven't had a chance to do the research on this. From what I understand, what Apple is saying is that if you take the cable that came with your AirPods Max and you plug it in, you do not get the high-res audio.
Correct.
Okay, so what if you take a different cable that has a different DAC in it and plug that in?
The cable doesn't have a DAC. I think you're mixing two different things. I mean, DAC quality is important. DAC quality is important for a lot of other CD gear, but I think in Apple's case, I think for the AirPods Max, the cable's just a cable. The DAC and other stuff is in the electronics in the
headphones.
This is something that Apple has talked about in the past with the Lightning connector, where they said, yes, we have a DAC built into the plug. Okay, so
I think
no, wait, I'm not done yet.
I'll let you finish.
But then what Apple also said was, and you can plug your own DAC into this and get the advantages of that DAC. So can we do the same thing with AirPods Max? Can we plug in a different DAC in line and let it handle that, and then AirPods Max will give us that better audio quality?
I think you're mixing, maybe by memory, you're is fuzzy or something, but the DAC is digital to audio converter. It takes the bits and converts it into an audio signal that gets amplified and then driven. They're truly in the high fidelity world. There's a lot of snobbery, et cetera, out there about, who has the best DAC. On the devices we use, it's integral to the device. It's not something that we can change and swap out.
But that's actually not true. We can literally do that.
Bullshit. Show me how. Show me how.
You can buy Focusrite.
He's about to
I challenge you.
Boom, right there. Digital external DAC. This takes over all my audio for my Mac. Boom, done. Now, this one only goes up to 96 kilohertz, but
no, hold it.
But it will handle up to 192 kilohertz. And
how does that work with your phone? How does that work with your phone?
I'm not talking about my phone with this. But
wait, let me finish.
But if I take this and I plug it into a Lightning to USB-C adapter and then plug my headphones into this, I'm using this DAC with my iPhone. Totally. You can do it.
I doubt that. I doubt that.
Well, you may doubt that, but I have done it.
And Jeff, do you hear a
get a better
difference?
tingle? Do you get a better tingle from your ears? Do you just give you
I
better
totally do. No, the thing is, I did it because I can, not because it gave me any value. The reason it didn't give me any value is because the audio files that I had weren't at a higher bit rate. So I wasn't going to get anything better than what I already had.
But hold it, lossless. So again, there's a lot of confusion here. Lossless is not the same as higher bit rate.
No, I'm totally aware of that. I totally get how codecs and bit rate and sampling rates work. This isn't new to me. All I'm saying is that when I did it with this and my iPhone, because I didn't have audio files that had been encoded at a high enough quality, I didn't get anything better out of this. So one of these days I'll actually do it, but it won't do me any good to encode anything above 96 kilohertz, 24-bit.
Right. But so that's the majority of things. So, technically when they talk about something being lossless, they talk about when they unencode it from the digital signal, whatever frequency you have, that you don't lose the frequency. And that's one of the problems that traditionally occurs, when people do, crummy jobs, or way back when people used to, steal stuff through Napster, when they have, stuff really, bandwidth limited, to cut down on file size, they cut down on the sampler rate, which cuts down on the frequency response. So strictly speaking, lossless, as in the sense of people are talking about FLAC files, that means that you reproduce this, the entire signal that you have not lost information somewhere in the process. Now that's important in terms of overall sound reproduction. I agree. I think wholeheartedly with Jay. And also with Guy, that a lot of people, they won't be able to hear the difference. Why? Because they may not have good source material that does it, or they may not have an educated ear to really be able to discern the difference, or they've damaged their ears, due to all sorts of
going to concerts.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think in this regard, I really agree with Jay that this is, to me, when I saw this, my immediate conclusion was, this is interesting. What does this mean for Apple? Are they, because I think I also had heard, on Mac OS X, clearance sales of various Beat headphones and things. So I'm thinking, okay, is this Apple preparing us, clearing the deck for introducing new audio devices? And in order to justify and stimulate sales of audio devices, they need to have better content, i.e., lossless, for it. So it could be that. It could be just a continuation of, I mean, how many terms have we heard, Steve Jobs and Tim Cook say, Apple loves music, Apple's in our soul, we love music. So finally, they're getting away from, badly encoded stuff to actually having, some decent, source material out there that's in theory second to none. Having said that, I know from my own experience that the quality of the mastering of the album way overshadows and influences your listening experience. Has nothing to do with bit rate or frequency rate. It's just, did they butcher the music when they engineered it to be reproduced and distributed?
Yeah, but I think you're right. It's the source, because if you start on the analog side with a bad source, I don't care how good your DAC is, then it's gonna be crap in, crap out, and you can't change that. It can't be changed. So you have to start with good source.
And there's a reason why the labels and the bands that are really into having the best experience for their audience will remaster for the medium. So you get the master that's done specifically for LP, and then the other for CD, and then the other for whatever digital formats. And that's why back when CDs first became a thing, so many of them sounded like crap. It's because they didn't remaster. They just took the master for an LP, threw it on a CD, and that's a great
Called it
way
a
to
day.
sell someone a crappy product.
Jim, you're quiet. Is this just not in your wheelhouse at all, or are you just listening to the discussion?
You know, I think this is something that once this show is over, we'll never speak of again. You know, my guess is, you know, any of us that's over 40 won't be able to hear the difference, for starters. No matter what equipment we have.
That's not true. I was in the studio for over a decade. So I can pretty much, there's weird little things. Most people wouldn't know, but or even care. But there are little things and effects, the way they trail off.
But people's hearing like really falls off.
That's just your ears.
Well,
ringing,
most people
Frank.
use it as wallpaper.
But no, I mean, in, you know, tested hearing. People's, you know, hearing falls off. That's part of getting older. But you know, I suspect that it's just, you know, Apple had the material, and you know, it probably took just, you know, very little engineering work. So why not? You know, if people want to have bandwidth to burn, you know, I do think somebody was, you know, doesn't lossless mean no compression? Isn't that what that means?
Yes.
Yep.
Or no,
So
yes.
it's
it
so
doesn't mean no compression. It means
Yeah.
that when you decompress it, that you don't lose any of the signal.
Yeah,
That means
it's identical to the
compression.
original.
if it's compressed, then there's loss.
No.
No.
That's the
If
thing, is there-
you start with a pure file, you compress it, and then on the other end you decompress it, and there's nothing lost in the translation. That's a lossless file.
But that's not what compression is. You can't have compression without loss. You know, compression is throwing information away, and you know, you try to do that in a way that, you know, humans don't notice. So that's like JPEG. You're throwing information away carefully.
Right. Okay, but JPEG is a lossy compression algorithm.
Right. And so is, you know, sound. If you compress sound, you're doing so.
No. That's the thing is, you know, about the FLAC. You know, FLAC is a compression scheme that is lossless. So there's all sorts of different families of algorithms. I mean, probably, you know, and by analogy, one of the things, you know, we're all probably, you know, very commonly familiar with is a zip file. A zip file takes the data, it compresses it, it reduces redundancy. On the other end, you decompress it, you get the original document back.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
lossless. So,
You're right.
yeah, I think you're familiar with. I think a lot of people in audio, when they talk about compression, they talk about, you know, limiting the frequency range, and that's definitely throwing stuff away. But you know,
Right,
that's
you're
different.
right. The zip file is lossless compression.
So I
And
think this
sometimes makes a file bigger depending on.
Yeah, so I'm just clarifying. You're bringing up a lot of important points.
But anyway, it's separate from the number of bits and the sample rate. Those are all independent.
Yes.
So part of the announcement was, this just brings up a question I have. Apple mentioned in their press release that these files will be ALAC, Apple Lossless Audio Codec. I think that's what it stands for. So is that different from FLAC, or is that just Apple branding?
It's just another.
Steve Jobs' little toy.
Don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
I don't know if we know yet.
Six of one, half dozen of another. You know, if it goes in and it comes out the other side exactly the same, then it doesn't matter what you call it. And
As long as it's not SBC,
the scheme
then we're
could
fine.
be completely different in the two ways that they actually operate. But if the end result is exactly the same, then who cares?
Okay.
Does this call into any question what AAC has been up to this point?
It's still a compressed file.
It's still a compressed file, but we've been led to believe, I think, at least the way I've understood it, is that has been a lossless compression, which I was equating to FLAC. And now we have...
It's a good compressed file compared to a lot of other formats, but it's still a compressed file. Basically, AAC was a way for, well, number one, it fit into Apple's DRM scheme really, really well. And it allowed for reasonably good audio to go to devices that Apple was selling. For the most part, I don't think too many people outside of Apple. Did anyone else use AAC besides Apple?
No,
Does anyone
I
know?
don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So everybody
Yeah,
everybody
proprietary.
else went with some other form of compressed music. Because you have to remember that that bandwidth was equally important, especially when the iPod first came out. You couldn't have stuff downloaded from iTunes in a reasonable amount of time if you were talking about, these huge audio files. So they had to have some way to compress them down and still make them sound pretty good.
And not just bandwidth, but space on your device.
Good point. Yep.
So that does bring up a question I've had, and I haven't seen an answer to it yet. Assuming that I don't want to, that I would prefer not to stream, because Frank very astutely brought up the bandwidth caps that a lot of us are starting to have now. So if I know that I'm going to listen to this album 15 times, I would rather just download it to my hard drive, let it take up the space, download it once instead of streaming it 15 times. Is that something that we're going to be able to do? Because right now we can download our libraries, our Apple Music libraries from Apple Music to our local machines or our local phones or iPads, and then play them if we have no connectivity whatsoever. Now
there are tiers for the quality levels in Apple's high-res music. So that there's a tier for streaming, but when you go all the way up to what is it, the 48-bit, 192 kilohertz, at that point, it's a download, not a streaming option. So then that file would be living on your local storage.
No, and you could download a file that size if your cellular connectivity could handle it.
If you have 5K, 5G.
Yeah.
I thought
that's just how Apple's
was
designating the different levels.
Yeah,
I thought part of the announcement was that some of them are not available over cellular. It has to be a Wi-Fi network.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, that would only make sense to protect people for themselves. Otherwise, people would be screaming bloody murder that Apple killed their bandwidth a lot.
Until Apple sells the Apple DAC.
But anyway, I just point out another thing. We have all these different degrees, of terms, right? We're talking about the number of bits, and that's sort of like analogous to what's your dynamic range, right? And now it's the new iMacs. They have 1,000,000 to 1, or is it 2,000,000 to 1? HDR range. So that's analogous to the number of bits that music is quantified to. The other thing they talk about that I think a lot of people maybe misunderstand or don't have the context for is when they say, oh, it's already up to 192 kilohertz. Well, what that does is that talks about the sampling rate of how many times a second are you sampling where that signal is to know what value you should load into your DAC to get converted back to an analog signal. Now, one of the reasons that even though most people can't hear above 20 kilohertz, and by basic engineering, Nyquist theorem, double that, to get to 40 kilohertz to be able to reproduce a signal. The problem you have is when you reproduce it, you have problems with the spectrum, and then it goes into the amplifier and all the other reproduction chain. So by oversampling at such a high rate, you make it easier to optimize extracting the spectrum on your receiver and take that and amplify it. Because Frank, I thought made to me most interesting comment here is he said he spent 10 years in the studio, and I think to contrast with Jim is that some of us, we're all getting old and our hearing may be degrading. I think Frank has a set of trained ears, so he can hear a lot of artifacts in the sound that most of us we either wouldn't hear it, or we just think, that this recording seems funny, it doesn't quite sound right. But I think Frank has the ears that he can pinpoint them and point a finger at them.
With
Mark,
finger in my ears.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because, I don't know about you guys, but I don't sit down and just listen to music any longer. I will do what Frank said earlier. I will use it as wallpaper at times, but I can also say there are times that I will sit down and pay extra attention to the music. But to sit down, close my eyes, and really listen to something, I just don't do that. And that's where, yes, I want the best sound I can get, but given what I'm listening to it through, whether that be home speakers, whether it be the audio engines behind me or whatever, I'm not sure how much of a difference this makes, even though we all want to believe it makes a difference. And that may be, part of it, that maybe 10, 15, 20% people can hear the difference. What this does, though, is it takes the whole discussion away from Spotify that they might have a better product, or Amazon or Tidal. Now everybody's going to have the same thing. So it's a moot point, and it's one less barrier to get into the Apple ecosystem if you were an audiophile snob.
Well, I don't think it's mute. We spent the last 45 minutes talking about it.
Well, yeah, but we're analyzing since it's coming in here. No, Jay, that's not what I said, but that's all right. Jay's putting things in the chat that he's trying to take credit for somehow. But I know Mark has a heart out to go to a barbecue that the rest of us weren't invited to.
Yeah.
And he brought the topic. The topic of 5G experience. For one, I can't participate much in this discussion because we don't have 5G here right now. In fact, I just checked my iPhone for the heck of it. I don't even have the fake 5G that AT&T said I did for a while, right at the moment. Does anybody have, honest to God, real 5G at this point, or any experience with it?
David does, I think.
You're muted, David.
Unmuted so you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, Chicago has 5G, and it's pretty much all over. At my home right now, it's not really high. It's I only get about 2 bars. But when I've gone out and about in different areas of the city and the suburbs where I live, and it's phenomenal. When I get 4 and 5 bars, I've done speed tests. I've had 200 or 300 megabit speeds over 5G. It's incredible. But buyer beware. It's just going to vary depending on where you are and where the towers are, and if they've upgraded the towers. And but they have done quite a bit of upgrades around the whole area. I mean, it's in pretty much all the big cities, in New York, Los Angeles. I don't know about Washington D.C., but where guys is nearby. And but I definitely notice a difference with the speeds, and I'm pretty pleased with it. And the nice thing is with T-Mobile, there wasn't any extra charge. They just included it, and with my iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's fully compatible. So
is the iPhone SE2 5G compatible?
I don't think so. No, it's not.
Okay, because I know on my 2018 iPad Pro, I think I've got 5G.
No, I have the 2018. It doesn't have 5G.
Okay, well, whatever it's got, it's fast as hell, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, LTE is probably going to be fine with the iPad.
So I have a phone here that 2 hours ago it said it was 5G, and now it says LTE. And that overall has been my experience. It seems to be it's probably very sensitive to loading, and I'm sampling this in an area over maybe 200 miles in California, from Central Coast to the Bay Area. And when you have it, it's really great. But it's not robust and it's not available all the time. But when you do have it, it seems to have better balance download and upload speeds, versus LTE. But it seems to me that we're just at the start of the carriers rolling out their equipment. So technically, they can say yes, they're using 5G in the protocols, but sort of the millimeter wave, super high bandwidth stuff that they talk about. Maybe David can get it in downtown Chicago, but most of the country it's just not there yet. So
They've done a good place. They've done it throughout the suburbs. So I mean, not just downtown. So they've really done a good concentrated area, of 5G in this area. So it is pretty good. Like right now, I just try to do a speed test, and my speeds are painful. I mean, it's also I'm in a room in the walls. It's affecting the distance. But if you go out and about, I mean, there's plenty of towers around. I got a tower down the street. I would go right near there, and I'm probably get 100 meg, 150 megabit speeds when I'm near there. So, but yeah, like you said, it varies. I mean, in the mountainous areas in California, it's a little more difficult. I'm not sure how it is in Los Angeles City proper, but in areas that you're surrounded by mountains and it's hard for that signal to travel, and also depending on the towers if they've upgraded them or not is really going to make the difference.
I think this is going to present an interesting challenge for the cellular companies, because they're almost going to have to. It's not going to be something they can charge extra for, but it's almost going to be table stakes that if I don't get into this game, I'm going to lose customers, because people are going to migrate over to Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever has the 5G. And that's what makes this, I think, a little bit different maybe than some of the things we've seen in the past. Or
they risk going to, someone saying, nuts to you, big carrier, I'm going to go to one of these, bargain cell phone, service providers.
Now there's that too.
The problem well, see, it's because you're smart. Yeah,
I don't see any use. I don't have any practical use for 5G. The only thing I've heard so far is when Warren or Dave has said, if you're in a specific venue and you're watching, let's say, a sporting event, you can see 5 different TV shots at once. Otherwise, I don't see the need for the speed. I mean, it's like all the stuff they're doing, like with Silicon in the Macs now. People with the Intel's Macs don't use most of the power.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, I mean, not only speed, you want 5G is going to probably bring some more efficiencies as far as connection to the network, because LTE could be a little more inefficient. I mean, obviously we go back to the old days, 3G, 4G, LTE. We all saw it. I mean, you saw the progressiveness, how much more improved it got. When you went, let's say, from 3G, 4G, and LTE, it was improved, but it was still it lagged. But 5G, I think it still has some work ahead of it, but I do see an efficiency as far as ping times rate. So it's you're getting much shorter ping times where you don't you were getting a little longer ping times on some of the older networks. So
I may be spoiled because I live near Philadelphia, so I go between Philadelphia and New York. So 4G and LTE are going to do me fine.
Right. Yeah. Philly probably has pretty decent 5G. Wouldn't be surprised.
But I feel like the arguments that, oh well, I don't need any more speed. And frankly, I hear what you're saying about the Intel Macs, right. And I get that to a point. But every time we've gotten faster Macs, we find ways to use that speed. I mean, we have better photo processing. We definitely have better video processing. Not everybody necessarily needs it, but there are ways that we can use it. And certainly we're asking our machines to do more behind the scenes than they've ever done before. So but I too, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. How fast do I need a YouTube video to stream? Now, if you give me something that might be able to replace my cable modem here at home, then that's a whole nother matter. That might, getting there, but definitely not nowhere close to that, because I need some, pardon me. I need something reliable to be able to do this show.
Right.
So,
what's the thing that Elon is doing? He's putting up all the stuff.
Starlink. Starlink. Is this Starlink?
Isn't that supposed to be like 100 plus megabit signals?
It's not an option because it only works in areas that are not dense. So it could work in rural West Virginia where there's 10 people on a hill sharing the same connection. It's not going to work in downtown Chicago.
It's not that it doesn't work in dense areas. It just doesn't support a dense number of users. A few users in Chicago could use it, but
Mark, how about you? You're the one that brought this topic up, and you say you've had it, or at least access to part of it, part of the time. I mean, do you feel like it's made a big difference, or is it just right now too inconsistent to really tell?
I'd say the jury's out. You know, it's better. I find that when I do get it, it seems incrementally faster, consistently than LTE, but I don't always have the ability to connect to a 5G signal. You know, the reason I was originally thinking about it was over the weekend. We had sort of an AT&T internet outage, and I was thinking, oh well, let me just tether a hotspot to it, and I checked the speed, and I was really pleased. You know, sort of it was 45 to 50 megabits per second down, which beats the pants off of what I had seen previously with LTE. And then when I tethered it to the Mac, I was getting 1 or 2 megabits per second. And I figured, just double checking that, I think that says something about the efficiency of the iPhone 12 Plus Pro Max efficiency as a network bridge, because in the past I've used either various iPhones, or even this goes back 8 or 10 years, the LTE Verizon iPad, and there could get systematically 3 to 6 megabits per second. So what that tells me is that they've rolled it out. There's just not a lot of available infrastructure, because I've noticed also, again, with this phone, let me take a step back, that I've noticed having various carriers in the past, that as they get to network capacity limits, they either degrade the quality, or if you've been talking too long, they boot you off and try to manage scarce network bandwidth that way. So my experience with 5G has all of those sort of telltale signs that the equipment is out there. There's not enough bandwidth, so they're managing it in a variety of ways. And that's why I was interested to hear what the experience of the other panel members are, because is it worse than LTE? Well, last night it was, because the 5G, it was 5G speed and was only 2 megabits per second down, which is a humongous WTF moment.
Oh.
But apart from things like that, it's I'm now much more open-eyed about how the phone connects to it, watching whether it connects to LTE or 5G, and trying to collect more data points and form a more solid opinion, other than it seems to be better, but it depends.
Mark, I think you would absolutely hate it if you did your test here in Boulder. The 5G availability here is so spotty that it's not worth it for me to pay the extra. I think it's $5 a month to have 5G access on my iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just not there. And I'm wondering if there are other municipalities that are in the same position, where you have enough of the population with city council support that is afraid of 5G, because they don't want to get to radiations or whatever, and they don't understand
electric towers,
ionizing radiation, and
right.
And yeah. So it's going to be a long time, I think, before we have any sort of reasonable 5G coverage around here.
Yeah. Well, we'll be at the Stanley Hotel for a couple nights in mid to late June. So, we'll get firsthand chance to test 5G coverage throughout different parts of Colorado.
We'll have to talk, and I'll let you know where to expect to have no signals at all, and where you will be happy with your signal.
No signal, as in zero, phone signal.
Oh, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of no signal in Colorado.
Okay.
Those pesky Rocky Mountains that do it.
I know.
Cows don't have
mountains.
Damn laws of physics. Can't Congress repeal it?
Yeah. So in the chat room, Webb is saying that, he thinks there are like 3 flavors and not all 5G is created equal. And he's not sure what flavor he has. Craig says no 5G for him in rural area, gets it in some urban areas, but still hit and miss. And that's kind of the way that it's been here. Although here, I'm not even sure we've hit with any 5G. So
who was it that said they're not getting it in a rural area? Because Craig, you hit on something really important about 5G. I do not expect to see 5G in rural areas for a very long time because the signal doesn't throw as far. And so you have to have your microcells scattered around to make that blanket for your 5G signal. And there's no value, unfortunately, for the cell service providers to really beef up that infrastructure in rural areas.
So, there you go. I mean, it's going to be like everything else. It's going to take a while to implement, and we're all becoming less and less patient with the rollout of new technologies. At the risk of taking us backwards, but think about the audio discussion we were having earlier. We're all frustrated, not frustrated, but we're all anxious to take advantage of it, but not all of our current hardware can do that. So we may have to buy some new hardware, or maybe limited by the technology as it stands now. But maybe somebody will come up with a new protocol for wireless headphones that will make it possible to enjoy the better quality without a cable. Of course, what that would cost is another matter, but
well, it's exactly the point. If wireless gets to the point where you don't need to redo the infrastructure as far as hardwired cabling goes, then that's a huge cost savings for the people that are providing the content. And we're not there yet, obviously, but I wasn't aware that Musk's thing was just not going to work for everybody. I'm just like, you're putting up one hell of a lot of satellites just so that the guy in the middle of Wisconsin can watch Masked Singer. So
there's some question that eventually it might be able to cover dense areas.
Well, maybe, but you can't retrofit satellites.
They're going to be launching thousands of them with starships.
That's one of the things that they were talking about is at the current moment, all of the satellites don't have a long enough shelf life that it matters to them. They can just shoot them up. Eventually they'll bring them back down because they're going to peter out or something. I don't know. But they were actually talking about this on, what was it today? Explained, I think yesterday, where they were just saying like the government's already bought into it because something has to happen. They have to figure out something to bring communication to everybody and it be on par with what folks in the city, folks in the suburbs are getting. And this seems like the bet that if it doesn't work this year, it doesn't work next year, it will work eventually. And in the meantime, they're like, well, the satellites are only good for a year and a half. Well, that's fine because in 3 years we'll have better satellites and the government's paying for it, so we don't care. And like they can just keep innovating because there's being money invested into it.
Well, hopefully all those satellites won't stay up there. We'll have like a real Wall-E type of environment.
That is another part of the conversation as well, that NASA is very confused about like, how is this going to work for us?
Yeah, I see a market for a company that's going up there and essentially sweeping up all of these soon-to-be dead Starlink satellites and all these other microsatellites that are just being tossed up there.
Yeah. No, they're going to come back down and burn up. They're not that high, so most satellites in low Earth orbit, they don't. Huh?
What you're saying is Elon Musk is making the big glider version of satellites.
He is actually
just totally disposable.
That's exactly
Jeff,
what they're doing.
Jeff, somebody already has the domain spacejunk.com, since 1996. So somebody's been thinking ahead.
So it's come to
thinking
this.
faster than me.
Right, but low Earth orbit, it's not that they're going to float around forever. There's still atmosphere there that's dragging these things down, and especially as soon as they run out of the fuel that keeps them in the right orientation, then they start tumbling, and the drag goes way up, and then they come down fairly quickly. So they're not going to be there for 1,000 years or even 20 years.
So it has come to this. We have disposable satellites.
Yep.
That's progress. That's
kind of impressive.
Progress.
Yeah.
What do we have that's not disposable, Chuck?
This
Yeah,
show.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is essential right here.
Exactly.
Mark,
Okay,
I'm looking
guys,
at the
I'm gonna have
time.
to go.
Yeah, Mark, where can folks find you before you go?
Twitter
At the barbecue.
Well, in a non-disclosed location, and in Chile behind us, at Mark Fuccio, MarkFuccio, or Mark Fuccio on LinkedIn. So it was a great discussion. This was a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you all again.
Good. Thanks, Mark. Good to see
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Enjoy the barbecue.
Thanks.
Enjoy the barbecue. Eric in the chat room is I guess taking issue with your selection of Wisconsin guy because he said that even rural areas in Wisconsin have DSL. So pick another state.
Okay. DSL.
DSL.
And he also says that he disagrees with having a sky full of satellites due to how they will interfere with astronomy, which is a very fair point. At some point, that could become a real big issue. Didn't I see NASA's building a telescope on the far side of the moon?
Yes.
So
It's going to
that'll help
launch
with-
pretty soon.
Yeah, that'll help with that problem.
That'll solve it. We just need to move further away.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the solution? Run away.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Holy Grail.
And so also somebody, I won't say who in our private Slack, put in a comment that they'd be purchasing an Audioengine D1 24-bit DAC. And somebody else in our chat room that I will not comment on was kind enough to put a link to that DAC on Amazon. So I will put that in the chat room for YouTube so you all can see it. And if you decide to partake of it, then that's your business. But these guys over here are helping me once again spend money. Thank you, guys.
We've got your back, Chuck.
Yeah,
Yes.
And your wallet.
Got you covered.
exactly.
Do we have Apple Pay?
Oh, good. I can't put the link. Sorry, YouTube chat room. I can't put the link in because it's 4 characters too long.
Oh, well then, just grab
Bitly.
the part that ends H5H2 / everything after that is just junk on the URL.
H5H2. Got it. Okay.
One person's junk is another person's data.
That's right.
Or satellite.
Is another
Or
person's
try that one.
referral
It's even
code.
shorter.
Oh, we're having
Okay.
some pun now.
There you go.
Did I just screw up someone's commission on a sale?
No.
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Try that one. That's shorter.
Yeah, that's shorter. That'll get you there and help you enjoy the full range of Apple services.
For $169.
Yeah, well, it's a detail.
That's a pretty good price for a DAC that does all this.
Yeah.
So there's one last topic I want to bring up, and it's sort of out of order. And it actually, I believe, came out last week. And that is this Cell survey that was done of 3,000 people over age 17 in the U.S. As to what they think of Apple's new products announced mid-April. And I am quoting an article here from PC Mag. The big takeaway was that 92.6% said they'd be sticking with Apple products when they make purchases this year. That's a higher percentage than even the last time they did an iPhone-only brand loyalty check. And I bring this up because it touches on something that we did a couple shows ago when we were talking about Apple's financials, that this is something that doesn't seem to get factored in I at least I don't feel like it's talked about or factored in much, is the loyalty factor. That
Retention.
people that buy Apple products tend to stay with Apple products, and that's and this. I mean, that to me is an anecdotal from what I've seen. This just solidifies that. And
Well, I mean,
go ahead, Guy.
their retention rate since probably the early 2000s is like the envy of every other electronics company in the industry. I don't think anyone has anywhere close to the type of retention rate product, to buy a similar product after they've bought the same product from the same company from before. Nobody else has these kinds of rates. I know most of the Android phone makers wish they had anything even close to this.
Mm-hmm.
Although doesn't Android as a platform, that's fairly simple. There's not a whole lot of movement between the platforms. And same thing for Mac
There's
versus
so many
Windows.
phones.
Yeah, it's not. It's like you buy a Samsung phone this time, maybe the next time you buy a Google phone, and maybe the next time after that you buy some other Android phone. But that doesn't help the guy that made the original Android phone that you bought, because you haven't bought another one from him.
Right.
Well, but for things like, say, software developers, all they care about is it's Android.
That's true. Although software developers, from what I understand, have been finding over the years that that even though the overall Android user base is larger than the iOS user base, there's a lot more money for them in iOS because that's where people actually pay for the apps. And on Android, they're always looking just for the free ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I get, Jeff, my sense is that people are more engaged with their iOS devices, with their iPhones. I better say it that way. For a wider variety of things than most of the Android people I know are pretty basic phone users and pretty basic email users and pretty basic chat users, and that's about it. Maybe one or two apps, but
I mean, okay. So in my circles here in Boulder, which is considered like the Silicon Valley of the Rockies, there are a lot of Android users that I know that are just as deep into everything they can do with their phone as iPhone users around here are. But at the same time, I do know quite a few people where their Android phone is simply the tool that they use to take some photos, handle some email, make a couple phone calls, and then play Crossy Roads.
I also think that's a echo chamber problem, though, because all of my friends are Apple pundits. So of course they're deeply invested in their iOS devices, but my wife could care less. She's like, new iPhone, I'm gonna buy it. And then she's like finding stuff out. I think she came in the other day, and she'll beat me if she ever hears this, but she came in the other day and said, did you know you could add favorites in messages? And I was like, yeah. Like, I just found that out. It's amazing. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. and then a few weeks ago, she's like, oh, what about, did you hear about these widget things? And it's like, ooh, I'm gonna make you watch WWDC like at least once.
Yeah. What I just think is kind of funny is that before I started working for the Mac Observer, in the past, like, I don't know, several years ago, I was actually writing for an Android website. And so I've seen like both sides of the ecosystems. And to me, that is like, this has been mentioned a lot of times before, but the strength of Apple's ecosystem is because it's an ecosystem that all these products and services just work together so well. And once you start using one, you're kind of drawn into another one. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Eric in the chat room is making that point as well, Andrew. He says Apple does a good job interweaving their products and services to keep you in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I mean, so tonight we've talked about, right now we're talking about iPhones, but we're talking about Apple Music and how its integration is with it. I think somewhere in there we threw in a couple HomePod comments, I believe. We had the AirPods and AirPods Pro discussion. So all those things fit together, and it's a great experience. And maybe somebody on the Android platform would argue that Apple has a superior experience, but certainly from what I see of the Android people, I don't think that their experience is as seamless as what we have.
Well, look at the Apple Watch. I mean, how many people do you know that have just an Apple Watch, but then don't go out and get an iPhone?
I don't think you can do that.
Well, if you're on
no, you
the
can't.
family plan thing, you can.
Well,
But
that's it.
Someone has to have an iPhone.
Someone has to have an
Yeah,
iPhone.
someone.
Yeah, or you can't, or the watch is just useless. You can't even,
I thought there
yeah,
wasn't
you can't even make it tell time.
There is, but you still need an iPhone to get it to set up.
Okay. So it's even
Yeah,
more
that's
of
how
a
they
gateway.
get you, Frank. You want an Apple Watch, and then they make you buy the iPhone to go along.
They sucked me in with the SE30. They sucked me in.
I think they probably did get people to buy iPhones that way.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You sure see an awful lot. I mostly just see Apple Watches on people's wrists, no matter where I go, and people that I would have thought probably would be Android users. But apparently they're not, and I rarely see Android watches.
I can't remember the last time I did see one.
Hey,
I can't remember the last time I wore my Apple Watch.
I can't remember the last time I left the house, but
Okay, Jim wins that round. Eric says you can't get an Apple Card without an iPhone. Okay, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Back to the PC Mag article, the one other thing that I thought was really interesting. Foremost are the new app tracking transparency privacy options. Now you have to opt into being tracked rather than opt out. 73% agree that with Apple's new privacy policies. And then the author was a little bit snarky. He's saying 18% said Apple was taking it too far because those respondents apparently love to share their data. So,
Yeah.
Are they saying all data or just specific data, like data for the developers?
they don't specify, Frank, but I would say that's one of those yes or no questions. Do you agree with Apple's privacy policies or not? So
what was that percentage that said they were okay with being tracked? I guess
18% said 18. Let me make sure we say it right, Jay. 18% said Apple was taking it too far.
isn't that similar? I
Wait,
saw this
what?
week that like somewhere in that percentage thought they could take on a grizzly bear unarmed. Did anybody else see that? Did anybody else see that this week?
Boulder.
I missed
Great.
But I like it. Andrew, you look perplexed.
So, sorry, can you say that one more time?
Sure. 73% agree with Apple's new privacy policies. 18% said Apple is taking it too far.
someone voted twice.
I do know that I think it was last week I had written about this survey that was going around saying 96% of people have opted into app tracking transparency. 4% of people said, they're not going along with that. And these 4% did want to allow themselves to be tracked. I just personally don't like the language around this, just because that setting is off by default. So for many of these people, they didn't really have to do anything. They either left that setting as default or they didn't even know that setting was there in the first place in the settings app, right? Like you have to manually turn that toggle on. So I personally thought that 4% was more interesting. These 4% of people did want, like they made a choice to allow themselves to be tracked via all these apps. And like, for me, I think that's cool. If my personal opinion has always been, as long as you know what is going on, like if you want Facebook and Google to collect your data, that's fine.
And for that percentage that went and intentionally turned on the app tracking, cross app tracking, my guess would be that these are people that see value in the targeted ads they're receiving.
Yeah.
And they're tired of seeing ads that have no relevance to them at all. And so their solution to that is do cross app tracking, let everything track me. Everyone already has all of my info anyhow. So why not get some value back out of it?
Yeah, exactly.
It really does depend on how you look at it. Jeff, you said that's an interesting point, that there is theoretically some value to tracking. I mean, listen, I get in not so much right at the moment because it's been so long since we've gone anywhere. But there was a time that I'd get in the car Friday night and my car would tell me exactly, how long it was to my destination, because that was my destination every Friday night. And so, obviously something is tracking me and paying attention to it there, but that also had some value. So,
if
was
you're
it
using
enough?
your iPhone, it's also keeping that data on your phone and not sending it anywhere, supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
my iPhone used to remind me to go to my Tuesday night programming meetup.
And now it tells you to go to MacVoices.
It doesn't tell me anything now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
that's a good
Apple
point.
Apple get to work on that. We want to be in that tracking. So, guys, we're going to wrap it up a little bit early, but thank you. This is great. Well, early for us. It's
not Thursday. It's not Thursday.
Yeah, I know this is supposed to be an hour show, but it never seems to work out that way.
Huh.
But I want to go around, let everybody know where they can find you guys when you're not here. So I'm going to change it up this time, though. I'm going to flip it around from the bottom up. And so, Jay, I'll let you go first.
Well, you can probably find me on Twitter at KJY Miller. And sadly, I'm still fighting with YouTube over my custom URL. So don't search for Jay Miller on YouTube. You won't find me. I'm not that famous yet. But follow me on Twitter. Check out the videos. I got another Keyboard Maestro video coming out tomorrow. So, be on the lookout for that.
Great. Thanks for being here, Jay. It's always a pleasure. Mr. Petrie, glad you got your audio worked out.
Well, I just threw something away is all I did. You can find me. I have website ympnow.com. I'm a contributor to Screencasts Online. And I'm here on Tuesday nights, and I can be found in a lot of chat rooms sometimes. Twitter, FPetrie, Instagram, PHRANKY.
Great. Thanks for being here, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
Jim Ray, where can folks find you?
Let's see. Well, here every Tuesday night, apparently, according to my phone or Jay or something. And day job is ProView development. I do Mac software. And then on Twitter, I'm ProView Jim.
Great. Thank you for coming, Jim. Andrew Orr, who got here just under the wire. Thanks for being here. I enjoyed your contributions. Where can folks find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chuck. As I said before, I write for the Mac Observer. You can find me at macobserver.com. I'm writing about Apple, security, privacy, all those cool things. And on Twitter, and actually most places, you can find me under the username Andrew or Not.
Excellent. Thanks again, Andrew. Mr. Serle.
Yes.
Can you bring a calmer shirt next time?
Probably, maybe. I don't know. I think almost all my shirts are orange. You can find me over on Twitter. I know it's a thing. Twitter, I am MacParrot and or VertShark. VertShark is the YouTube channel. Of course, there is the mighty MyMac.com podcast that I do every weekend with Gaz, going on over 10 years now. as well as the Mac to the Future livecast that is, I'm usually joined by David Ginsburg, he's that guy right over there, and Warren Sklar. Guy at mymac.com is the email address. I think that's about it.
Great. Thanks, Guy. Good to have
Thank
you.
you.
As always. Jeff Gamet, the man who is keeping us aware of wildlife in Boulder.
Yeah, you can find me steering clear of the mountain lions that are roaming around town right now. But once the bears have their cubs and they start lounging in the trees, I will stay a safe distance away, but close enough to get photos for everyone. So when I'm not putting myself in danger with the local wildlife, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm JGamet both places. Here on MacVoices on Thursdays, The Big Show, and on Fridays, The Mac Show from British Tech Network. A semi-regular basis, it seems like, on In Touch with iOS. So thanks for that, Dave. And you can find me on YouTube. My channel is JGamet, just like Twitter and Instagram.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff. Good to have you. Last but absolutely not least, Mr. David Ginsburg. Thanks for being here, David.
Thanks for having me. Find me, as Jeff mentioned, In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. Actually, Mr. Guy Serle is going to be on the show this week.
Yep.
And you always find me here, as well as on the Mac Show on Fridays on the British Tech Network, as well as Mac to the Future Go livecast tomorrow night, Wednesday nights. It'll just be Guy and I this week, since Warren decided to go to Vegas. So,
how dare he?
How dare he? And then I'm on Twitter at DaveG65. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good to have you as always.
Good beer.
Definitely wanted to say thank you to the folks in the chat room for contributing tonight. It's always good to have them chime in. They expand our horizons a bit. So thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices Live. We do this Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you join us and contribute just like the chat room did tonight. Put it on your calendar. Tell your S friend or your A friend to remind you, and you'll be here with us. So until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.